All right, chip of the day. Everybody loves chip of the day. It's a 74LVC1G07 single buffer driver with open drain output. So this is low voltage CMOS LVC. 1G means it's one gate per package. There's only one gate in the actual device itself. And 07 is just a buffer number, right? It's a 7407. It's open drain, voltages to 5.5 volts. You can operate it between 1.65 and 5.5. And look at this, maximum sync current, 32 milliamps. Man, it's a bruiser. So yeah, it's pretty cool. You may have seen this before, but I wasn't really familiar with that sign in the triangle here, that little square with a line underneath it. And supposedly that stands for a tri-state buffer, a tri-state logic thing. And I guess it applies to open drain as well, or open collector. So yeah, anyway, I hadn't really seen that before, so I learned something. Let's see what else is in here. So this is the package. It is tiny. It is tiny. I've got the SC70 package, which is smaller than an SOT23. It's tiny. No connection, the input and output A and Y, ground and VCC. So tiny little package here. I don't know if I can show this on camera because they're like pepper. They're super, super tiny. Oh, come on. I can't even open my damn box. There we go. So here are these little guys. Okay, so here you can see this is the drawing. Let me sprinkle one out like Tic Tac. There we go. See it? See it? It's tiny. It's super, super, super tiny. So anyway, let me pop it back in the box. Yeah. So nice little buffer thing. Let's see, anything else in the data sheet? Yeah, I found this interesting. I try to highlight things I find interesting. So level current, remember I said it was 32 milliamps of drive? Well, that's only if you have a VCC of 4.5 or better. At a VCC of 3, it's lower. A VCC of 1.65, it's only 4 milliamps at 1.65. So be aware that it depends on the voltage you're running the thing at, how much current it can draw. Now, I did build a board. The first thing I had to do was solder that little tiny little part. And there it is on a little board that I made, a little SIP board. I did a video on those. A SIP card that I made. So it's soldered down. And the other thing that I did was I made a scope probe socket. I'm using a 22 gauge wire, and you wrap it around the probe, and then you wrap it around the tip, and then you solder it down to the board. And then when you stick the scope probe in there, where's my scope probe? Let's see if I can show this on camera. So you just wind on that diameter, and then you wind on that diameter. And then as you put this thing in there, you've created a socket. How about that? How clever that is, right? So we'll have a very good output impedance on the scope probe. No, lowest inductance I could get away with here. I also put some bypassing caps in the back, tiny little SMDs. There's three on the back, one for the input of the power, and then one next to the part. Now, ideally it would be right up here next to the part, but I don't have that luxury. Okay, so let's go ahead and hook one up and play with it. All right, let's turn this thing on. I've got 5 volts coming in, and I've got the channel 1 connected to the output, all right? And then I've got this probe over here with the short little wire thing, little springy thing on it, so we can look at the other things. All right. All right, we're going to be looking at the falling edge. Well, let's look at both edges first. Let's do alternate. This is a good way to see both edges at the same time. You trigger on a positive edge one sweep and then a negative edge the other sweep, and so you can look at the differences between rise times and fall times. You can see here the fall time is very, very fast because it's open drain, so it has a lot, 32 milliamps it can pull down, right? But the up is just a 1K resistor, so it's going to be slow. All right, so that's the way that works. Let's go ahead and trigger on just the negative. All right, and there's some bounciness on it, that's fine. Let's go ahead and put the other probe on. Let me find a ground here. So here's the input. Let me stop this for a second. So this is the input signal and this is the output signal. And you can see that one is much sharper than the other. And you can see that they're both the same direction. They're both negative going. So it's a buffer. It's not an inverting buffer, it's a buffer. But things happen inside the buffer before it gets to the outside. There's multiple stages in the buffer. It's not just a single transistor. There's multiple transistors. There's the input section, there's like a massaging section, and then there's a section that drives the output transistor, and then there's the output transistor. So I did a video once before on why is there bumpies before the falling edge, and that's because the chip is doing things in here. The input is starting to switch here, and then that's causing the input section to start drawing current. It's doing a bunch of stuff before it gets to the falling edge. But anyway, let's go ahead and turn on a measurement here. I'm going to do a delay measurement between the falling edge of trace 1 and then the falling edge of trace 2. And you can see here how long it takes for the edge to propagate through the gate. Okay, that's the transition time of the gate. It's around 1.5 nanoseconds, 1.4 nanoseconds, something like that. That certainly meets the net data sheet. The data sheet says minimum of 1, maximum of 4.9. So yeah, we're kind of on the low end, so it's a pretty speedy little part. Let's see, what else can we do while we're here? We can probably demo one interesting thing for you guys. I'm getting two spoiled on fast oscilloscopes, okay? And let's turn off the input. Let's just look at the output here. It's got the little rings on it, okay? Yeah, that's good. So we have a little ring at the front, little ring at the back, and that's caused by ground bounce and VCC and currents and switchings and all kinds of stuff that causes little, but will you be able to see that on your oscilloscope? All right, this is a 1 gigahertz oscilloscope, so it's quite speedy. So let's change it. Let's say that you have a 50 megahertz oscilloscope, okay? And I need to start running again. So here we go. Here's a 50 megahertz oscilloscope. You're going to have a bump on both sides, and you might attribute that to the actual scope itself. You might say, oh, that's sine x over x, that's interpolation, blah, 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 blah. No, it's actually caused by the actual, it can. I'm not going to take that away from it. You can see sine x over x problems. But this here can also be an artifact of things that actually are happening. So once again, if we go to 1 gigahertz, we see the little bumpies. If we go to, let's say you have a 350 megahertz oscilloscope, that's what it looks like. If you have a 200 oscilloscope, now you just get a little blip. If you have maybe a 100 megahertz oscilloscope, then it's going to start looking like that. And if you have a 10 megahertz oscilloscope, it's going to look really, really nice. It's going to look just like just a little bit of hump there. Anyway, because I have this fancy scope now, I am able to see things I haven't seen before. So that's interesting. I can actually kind of come in here and I can see, yeah, what exactly is happening in here. You know, this waviness here, might be due to some inductance, yes, and it might be due to some switching artifacts in the front end, might be due to lots of things, like the big thing down here might be a bounce in inductance in the ground lead or something. You never know. Yeah, it is interesting. Let me show you one last thing before we stop here. Let's go ahead and turn on the other one again. All right, and just to show you once again, let's zoom out here a bit. There we go. Let's go ahead and look at that input again with this. So this probe's looking at the input, looks like that. Now I'm going to look at the output with this one, and we can see that it's about the same, right? It's a little bit different at the bottom, but they're pretty darn close. There's a little difference in inductance between the two probes. One might have a little bit lower inductance than the other, and so you see a slightly different waviness, but you know, it's not a whole lot different. It's really not a whole lot different. And then for those who want to see a long probe, so here's a long ground lead, and a lot of times that's just fine. Let me hook this up here before I stop talking here. So here's our input and here's our output. So you can see that our output looks different because our inductance is now different, having that long ground lead. But is it really all that much different, right? The little wiggles here are kind of the samey, and down here the amplitude's kind of the samey. So just one lesson is that long scope probes aren't always all that bad, especially for just, let me change my camera here. Especially for just poking around. When you maybe want to make a real accurate measurement, then go ahead and get yourself the little spring, put it on. I did a video on those. What I found is that the people were talking about my active probe, and because it's so low impedance, there's not a lot going on in the ground lead. It's very, very low currents, and so it's actually, you can sort of get away with this really, really ugly long thing here. Let's see if I can demo that. Let's see here. It's on, turn off 2, we'll turn on 3. Let's hook it up to the circuit here. Now one of the problems with this scope probe is because it's going through circuitry and stuff, it's going to add this delay, and this is something I hadn't expected. So this probe has to go through some circuitry before it gets back to the oscilloscope, and so the signal is delayed a whole bunch. So you really can't use it to compare to other oscilloscope probes. So I kind of found that interesting. Let's see here. Are we on the correct scale? Let me make the grounds both the same. I haven't figured out how in this oscilloscope to do a phase delay. I need to poke around to see if it has that you can actually shift this over, put in a phase offset. I don't want to do it on camera here. I just don't want to waste your time. But I don't think it's obvious. We're just, yeah. But what we can see is we see that we see the little ringy-dingy there, and we see the bounciness here. It's actually better than this scope probe. And remember, that scope probe there is tied into the circuit with almost zero inductance. And so you would think that this one would be better than that one, but this one seems to be better. And I believe that's due to the high impedance of the active probe. So anyway, just one observation. Maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong, but it just seems as though with this one, 10 megahertz or whatever megahertz, I forget how many, not megahertz, mega ohms. I forget how many mega ohms. It's at least 1 mega ohm, right? Yeah, 1 mega ohm. So this has 1 mega ohm, that has like 10K. So with the 1 mega ohm, you're not getting a lot of current in the ground lead, and you sort of can get away with murder. Yeah, you can put a short lead on here too when you have maybe a circuit that you're really, really interested in at high speed pulses and stuff. You put in the short ground lead, and that would help. But just for poking around and stuff, I find this long ground lead working just great. All right, well, that was tip of the day, a 74LVC1G07.